Evan Ringler on the Mind of Mansion program. Get ready.
Well, let's get it. Psyched to be here.
You should be psyched. You should be psyched. You are our go-to analytics guru now at Player Profiler. You're the main guy. You took over for Dario. You interned, you apprenticed under Dario for a year, and now it's your job. You're the guy. You are the guy. You're ready to do this. I have decided that you're ready. And so far, the first 8 weeks of the season, all you've done is step up in an incredible way and exceed expectations. Theo, Billy, Bradley, Jason, everyone, oh my God, Evan, he's doing so great. He's doing so great. And now we've said, okay, why don't you resurrect this show called Stat Masters? So you've resurrected the show, and you can subscribe to it. You can go to pod.link. Again, you'll go in wherever you get podcasts. Search for Stat Masters with Evan Ringler. Subscribe to it. Check it out. So what do you do on the Stat Masters show? It's a weekly show, right?
Yep. Every week, I bring you 20 stats in 20 minutes. And I really build 20 statistical cases for players or for teams. I use data analysis tools from Player Profiler to do most of that research. And yeah, it takes up quite a bit of my time.
But it's worth it. You like doing it. You like broadcasting.
Oh, yeah.
It's fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's great info.
Yeah. So we're in it, right? We're in it. From here to Thanksgiving, this is the grind, right? From Halloween to Thanksgiving, that is the grind. And speaking of Halloween, we got a special going on right now. Promo code BOO. Use promo code BOO at playerprofiler.com. Promo code BOO. Check this out. With promo code BOO, B-O-O, B-O-O is the promo code, you get $69 off. And because it's Halloween, if you take $69 off $135, that's what?
$66.
$66, a Halloween special for $66. You can't beat that. The only way you can beat a Halloween special of $66 is if it also comes with $69 off. I mean, this is just one of the greatest realizations of my life, which is super sad. I was like, well, what if we took $69 off? That'd be nice. I was like, let's just do that. Let's do $69 off. And then I was like, what is that, 66? I was like, wait a second. This is Halloween time. What? So good. So check it out. You can get data analysis, which is what Evan's talking about. Get the rankings, the projections. Those projections and rankings also include offensive line rankings, cornerback rankings, as well as the DFS Dominator.
IDP rankings, too. We got it all.
Don't forget IDP rankings, Dynasty rankings, the whole Dynasty Deluxe package. It's all there. That's the special. Got to make sure we talk about it because it's so funny. What a coincidence. You just luck box some of these, just random numbers. They all work together. It's perfect.
Yeah. Some people are saying it's the best thing you've ever done. That's what I've heard. Promo code BOO.
Promo code BOO. I also like that it's promo code BOO, B-O-O, right? So, it's was that boyfriend also? But BOO because it's Halloween, and you get the whole thing for $66. So which performance did you find most interesting last week? Week 8 has come and gone already. Which player were you like, whoa, this is amazing. This was impressive.
Well, I think the most shocking was definitely Puka Nacua, considering that he was supposed to come back around week 10. They were saying, well, he might play this week. And I thought there was no way. I thought they were just lying, making the Vikings prepare for it. But he did show up, and he earned a 27% target share and finished as wide receiver 14 on the week. And it's huge for this Rams offense. It's kind of going to change the fantasy landscape, I think, with Kupp and Puka back.
Is that going to hold back Kyren Williams at all? Is that going to prevent Kyren Williams from scoring, luck boxing a touchdown every single game?
Well, sadly, they're going to be in the red zone more. So
that's right. It's actually going to help Kyren Williams. God damn it. At some point, this is going to all work out for Blake Corum. My Kyren Williams fade is bolstered by conviction, and the conviction comes from a decade of watching running backs like Kyren Williams come and go in the league, the unimpressive core advanced metrics that he's bringing to the table, all of the college metrics, the workout metrics, the efficiency metrics that predict future performance. He is near league bottom in almost every explosiveness metric, including our EPX metric. So congratulations, by the way, on the EPX metric. Can we talk about the EPX metric? It's great, especially in the context of Kyren Williams, because he was last in that metric for a number of weeks.
Yeah, so it's explosiveness rating, basically. It takes into account both the rate at which a player creates explosives and the total volume of explosive plays they create. And it was created by Dario, who came before me. I did have a hand in helping him nail down the details, but for the most part, that was Dario's. And yeah, I think you'll see the results are pretty good. You'll see Kyren at the very bottom and, the most explosive guys like Kenneth Walker near the top.
Kenneth Walker's pretty good, huh? He's good at football, would you say?
Certified good at football. That boy nice.
Certified good. That boy nice. I like that a lot. So I have maximum conviction in my fades of players like Kyren Williams because first and foremost, he's a running back. And now he's an undersized running back, and he's an unathletic undersized running back, and he's an unathletic undersized running back who has been inefficient this year and has not been delivering explosive plays. And we can go on down the list. These are the reasons why, the underpinnings of my conviction. It's not just a random chance which players I have the most conviction about, which positions I have the most conviction about. I have some positions that are pretty thin positions, and it doesn't take a lot to get me off those hands. It takes a lot. It would have taken Kyren Williams being super efficient this year to get me off it, but he hasn't been, so I'm continuing to bet every street with Kyren Williams. With a player like Nico Collins, who I was only fading based on this idea that there's no way C.J. Stroud can be as prolific this year, especially with the addition of Joe Mixon and how defenses adjust around the league, and that with Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins all having ADPs inside the top 60, in some cases inside the top 30, it didn't make sense. Like the ADPs, especially when you include Mixon and Schultz, they didn't add up. There was no way, it was not possible, wasn't mathematically possible for C.J. Stroud to support all those ADPs. And you just pick the most expensive of that group and say, well, I'm not going to be overweight on that guy. Other than that, Nico Collins, an impressive college dominator, impressive speed score. Like, there's a lot of underpinnings to be encouraged by what you saw in 2023 from Nico Collins and project him to continue to be a top receiver, especially, when you look at the efficiency metrics. He was near the top of the league in yards per route run and a number of other key efficiency metrics. So there was both a college production and efficiency. He checked in as a size speed specimen, and then he comes in year 3 and finally breaks out. So there was a lot to like. So fading him was dangerous. Certainly not a player you wanted to do a full fade on. You wanted to have some exposure, just not full exposure. That was the recommendation. And as soon as he comes in with a couple strong performances to start the year, fold. Like, I'm out. I'm on Nico. It's that easy. I could flip instantly. It's a Bayesian process. I liked him already. I just didn't like the ADP. I didn't like the cost. As soon as I see, oh yeah, he's establishing himself as an alpha, even within the presence of Stephon Diggs arriving, boom, we're on Nico. It's that easy. It's a flip. It's an easy flip of a switch. Happy to do it. Kyren Williams is a very different situation where the underpinnings are rotten. Right? His fantasy points are built on a rotten foundation, whereas what Nico is built on is super strong. And especially when you're looking at two dynasty assets, these players are a similar age. One is a running back, so he's going to be discounted at dynasty versus Nico Collins, the wide receiver. But could you see a deal happening in dynasty where someone could conceivably acquire a Nico Collins, especially now that he's on IR, for a Kyren Williams?
Well, I think the time to do it would have been a couple weeks ago. He should be back soon, although we haven't heard much. That being said, I mean, if you can get off Kyren in Dynasty, you should do it right now. Maybe Kyren in a late 25 first or even a late 26 first would get it done. And I would probably be willing to do that on almost every team unless I just really need the running back.
You are very comfortable arguing with me. So historically, one of the reasons I really like you, one of the reasons why Theo respects the hell out of you, is your ability to push back. You are fearless in your ability to push back. And sometimes you're like, hey man, I don't agree with this. Can we have a meeting about this? Or, let's take a second look at this. I'm not sure I agree with this. So it's nice to hear that, okay, someone who's grounded and has no biases around Kyren Williams, like you have no, you anchored opinions. You're coming in saying, yeah, I agree with you. Longer term, this thing's going to zero. We just happen to be at the apex of its value right now, and now would be the time to get out. So you agree? Now is the time to sell.
Yeah.
Sell high on Kyren Williams.
There's no going up from here. I don't see how that would really be possible. I mean, he's not going to suddenly turn efficient or suddenly become an elite receiver. It's just not going to happen. He's at the top right now. Maybe he maintains that for the rest of the season. That's totally possible. But at some point, it's going to go down. And Nico, I think he's only going up. That guy's a stud. He's been my guy. We had many arguments about him last year.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, your passionate opinion and position on Nico Collins being the alpha there, without question. Even with Stephon Diggs arriving, I was like, geez, man, you're pretty bullish on Nico Collins. So that was where I knew I was in a shaky situation. I knew that I needed to be careful not to fully fade him. And as soon as we saw signs that, yes, he is going to just roll over his production right into 2024, fold. I'm out. I'm good. I'm on him. We're together, right? We're together instantly. But not getting that pushback from anyone here on Kyren Williams allows me to continue to be super brave and just see in the comments, because it's every tweet. You realize this. Every time I tweet, every time I do a show, they're in the comments with,
Maddie scoring touchdowns.
Yeah, the Kyren Williams with the clown face and the Kyren Williams with the ghost emoji. It's every week. And so, yes, this is a hobby horse topic of mine, but it's partly you, the audience, that keep bringing this back. Like, out of context, I'll go on other shows, and there'll be people in the comments trolling me, heckling me about Kyren Williams. So this is what you want to hear. This is clearly the relevant topic of the day. You want to see how long it's going to take for me to get off him, and you'll be waiting into infinity.
Yeah. No, part of being a good analyst is knowing when to stick to your guns and know when to fold.
Yeah, I've seen enough now. I've seen enough. 10 years of paying very close attention to the career arc of players, especially in a dynasty context. I'm now much more confident about who I'm on and who I'm off at any given time during the season and in the off season. So let's talk about players that have disappointed you this year. Give me your number one biggest disappointment.
Yeah, I had two for this. Tank Dell and Jaylen Waddle. Waddle, it's all because of the Tua injury. I still think he's really good. I mean, the metrics in his first couple of years are just too good, and I don't think he's gotten worse as a player. But I think the interesting one is Tank Dell because all of his metrics just suck now, despite Nico missing games, and now Diggs is out, maybe for the season. So Dell should theoretically smash, but we haven't seen it yet.
So Nico's going to win people a lot of money.
Oh, yes.
A lot of money. And you love that they IR'd him so he could be fully healthy when he comes back.
We hope. I mean, we haven't heard anything, which is slightly concerning. I wish we had got a report last week that was like Nico's ready to go in week 10, but we haven't.
But, I mean, it's a good precedent from Puka Nacua, right?
Yeah.
Puka Nacua goes to IR. They give him plenty of time to get healthy, and then he comes back, and it's like he never left. Right? No rust, no nothing, ready to go, 100 yards, let's go.
Yeah. I mean, these elite guys, you really don't have any concern.
So just for the record, to make sure there's no confusion, Coco Baby. I love seeing these new people in the chat. There's nothing I love better. If you are thinking about joining the YouTube chat, the live YouTube chat, please do. Please do. And if you want to use like a fun emoji avatar, that's always great. This guy has a ghost face, like a cartoon ghost face, and I love that. Coco Baby, love you, baby. Is Kyren worth Nico plus? No. That'll never happen. All right. Nico is worth Kyren plus. But if you happen to have Kyren Williams, now is the time to put him on the block, and a potential deal might be you offer Kyren Williams in 2 seconds for a Nico Collins. That's a deal that could theoretically get done.
Yeah, it depends on the market. Some leagues love running backs, and in that type of format, maybe you can just send it Kyren for Nico, and then wait for a counter. But yeah, I would send up to a late first on top of Kyren to get Nico.
Ooh, wow, you are very bullish. Joanna in the chat, she's one of our great community participants. Love Joanna. Jaylen, Coker, or McMillan rest of season?
That's a really good question.
Is it?
No, I have a segment coming.
Is that a good question?
Well, I really think Deontay's going to get traded, and Coker has been producing. Schefter put out a tweet yesterday that was Deontay is expected to be traded. So if that happens, then Coker versus McMillan is pretty interesting, but still give me a McMillan.
Okay, thank you. It's McMillan.
Yeah. No, for sure.
McMillan.
But Coker is a little interesting.
Coker is a little interesting. Okay, that's it. But isn't Xavier Legette more interesting, though?
Oh, yeah, easily. We'll be talking about him later.
Yeah, we're talking about Xavier Legette. Don't worry. We have a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk about Xavier Legette. We're going to talk about Tank Dell. Oh, we're going to talk about Tank Dell because this is the make or break week for Tank Dell. We're going to know what Tank Dell is. We're going to know how Tank Dell's leg is feeling. Like if he has full explosiveness, range of motion or not, we are going to know this week because I don't believe he does. And I think these drops that he's been experiencing this year are due to the leg. I think that he's tilting. He's been tilting all year because he's not 100%. He's not trusting his body right now. And then that leads to concentration drops, concentration mistakes, missed blocks, missed assignments, bad routes, all these things. It compounds as you lose confidence in your body. And it has all these downstream consequences. I think that's what's happening with Tank Dell. And I'm not sure he can get out of it. Sometimes you need a full reset in the offseason to get out of it. We'll see. This is the week. With no Diggs and no Collins, This is the week for Tank Dell. We're going to get into it. We're going to get into it. There's a lot to get into. I can't believe how much there is to get into.
Yeah,
I was doing a show sheet last night, And you saw it arrived at like 11 o'clock at night. I just kept adding on. I don't know how long this show was going to be. I love that you are not, working somewhere else, as a guest of mine. Like I'm going to have Sigmund Bloom on, and I'm going to be a little more nervous for that. These kinds of shows, you, Dan Williams, the people who work together, it's a little more relaxed. But I also know that you can go 2.5 hours. Welcome to the Mind of Mansion program. A young gun, the young genius behind Player Profiler's projections, rankings. Our new head of analytics is here with me today from the state of Minnesota. It is Evan Ringler. Talk to me.
Man, that was electric. I've been waiting for that for a minute. Fired up to be here.
I like the state. I added that. Maybe I'll start doing that. From the state of Minnesota. Felt good.
Yeah, you're a big fan of Minnesota, I hear. Love the hat, at least.
I have a Minnesota flag hat. Here it is. We got it right here. People wonder how I'm able to reach so many things. Like how do you just pull out a little a toy? Like how do you do that? How is it all right there? What is they think those like the most cluttered desk ever, right? It's actually not. It's actually not. You'd be surprised. We can
just
go into full nerd mode. We can do all kinds of things that we want to do. We can do lots of things. We're going to have a lot of fun today. This is going to be one of the more enjoyable shows for me. Relaxed. We've got, one of the young guns from Player Profiler. That's always a great pleasure. And you and I, we talk almost every day now. So this is just going to be an extension of the conversations that we have behind the scenes. And so that's the window that the audience is getting today. Fun stuff. I feel good about predicting the Jameis Winston eruption in Week 8. I wanted it to happen in Week 5. It didn't happen in Week 5. I said it's going to happen. Week 6, it didn't happen. I said it's going to happen. Week 7, it didn't happen. I said it was going to happen. Week 8, it happened. It happened bigger than we could have ever imagined. But it was the perfect game environment for him to come in and face the Ravens. They give up, top 3 in the league in fantasy points allowed to opposing quarterbacks and receivers. That was the perfect team to play. Perfect team. So let's talk about Jameis Winston and what you project for him for the rest of the season and put it in the context of how bad was Deshaun Watson.
Well, Deshaun Watson was the worst Browns quarterback ever, which is just incredible. Didn't think that was even possible.
Worse than Tim Couch.
Worse than all of them. All of them.
Jason Campbell. So many bad ones. Brandon Weeden.
Infinite. Seemingly infinite. He's the worst.
There's got to be 100, if not 100 bad Browns quarterbacks that have started games in the franchise's history.
Yep.
And he's the worst.
And they can't cut him.
Stone cold worst. What a great moment for this team to finally have a quarterback that can sustain drives and put these players in a position to produce. Wow. Cedric Tillman, outstanding. Goes 12 targets the week prior. Then last week, another 9 targets. And he's putting up another big game, another 100-yard game. Njoku, 7 targets. Elijah Moore, 12 targets. So when you look at the opportunity breakdown on this team, Chubb dudded out, even on 16 carries, just didn't get touchdowns, didn't get a long run, didn't get a touchdown. He could have easily got there, didn't. The wide receivers got there. Even Jerry Jeudy, technically 12 points. Would you consider 12 points getting there? I mean, that is the cutoff, right? 12 to 13 fantasy points.
You're not mad if you started him.
Right. You're not mad. But he was third among wide receivers and targets, and he's just not a difference maker out there, is he?
No, he sucks.
No good.
I actually really like Tillman just because he's the one guy that can go deep on this team. You know, Judy and Elijah Moore, these guys are more underneath or over the middle. Tillman can go deep, and you know that Jameis will love to take those risks. I mean, they really shouldn't have won that game on Sunday. Jameis threw two of the worst picks you've ever seen, and they were both dropped. But yeah, I think this Browns offense, the passing offense especially, is going to smash. David Njoku has a case for tight end one rest of the season, and I think the running game will be decent.
You know who Cedric Tillman looks like? Player you love, one of your favorite wide receivers.
Who does he look like?
6'3", 6'4", 215, 80th percentile speed score. Drafted in the 3rd round.
Oh, are we talking about Nico?
This I'm getting heavy. I mean, I don't know about you. You should be. Because you know the analytics better than I do at this point. I'm getting heavy Nico vibes from this Cedric Tillman.
Yeah, I could see it. I can totally see it. I mean, he hasn't produced or been on the field as much as Nico in his first 2 years. You know, Nico was at least on the field, even if he wasn't producing. But that being said, it doesn't really matter. He's got the athleticism. He can go deep. I think the thing that separates Nico is that he was able to develop his route running in the intermediate part of the field, and he can kind of do everything now. So, you know, I think there's a case that we could wake up and Tillman could get there later in the year, but not yet.
Well, Tillman was difficult to project because he had that injury-plagued 2022 season at Tennessee. He only put up 400 yards, like 11.3 yards per reception, but the year prior, 17 yards per reception, over 1,000 yards, 25% target share, 70+% catch rate, 12 touchdowns at Tennessee. Right? But then that next year, he gets hurt. Right? So we have other examples of this. Right? Jalen McMillan getting hurt at Washington and opening up opportunity for Jalen Polk. But when you look back, McMillan, is impressive the year prior. And we were fooled into believing, Jalen Hyatt was the best receiver from Tennessee that particular year because both Hyatt and Tillman came out. The NFL got it wrong. Thought Hyatt was better. Hyatt, a one-dimensional field stretcher, very D.D. Westbrook, like maxing out at D.D. Westbrook with his comp, whereas Tillman maxing out at Nico Collins. Much rather have a Nico Collins prototype than a D.D. Westbrook prototype.
Yeah, I think that's a good take.
Right. So that's why I always preferred Tillman. I've never been in on Jalen Hyatt. Never understood. Like there are certain players with certain profiles where I just never understand the fascination. Like why? Why do you get someone explain to me why you like Jalen Hyatt? And I'm like, Cedric Tillman had the best season by a Tennessee receiver in recent memory, just all the way back in 2021.
Well, Hyatt's season where McMillan got hurt, he was the best receiver in the country. Some people said, at least the Bolitnikoff. But yeah, it was ridiculous. It's just box score scouting for the most part, I think. Tillman was running legit routes. Hyatt was not. Just slot fades the whole time.
Yeah, it was quite the play. I was in wait and see mode last week. I knew the matchup was perfect, but just based on our projections and the fact that you have 3 viable receivers plus David Njoku, and we hadn't seen Jameis Winston start a game in a while, I wanted to see it. And now that I've seen it, I'm an instant believer. Like, it's okay. Like, if you didn't start Cedric Tillman last week, don't feel bad. Right? I have him on a team. I didn't start him. It's okay. I don't feel bad at all. We're in wait and see mode. Now, the problem is this week they play the Chargers, and that's a horrible matchup. Minus 11.7 fantasy points per game allowed to opposing wide receivers. Only one other team gives up fewer fantasy points to opposing wide receivers than the Chargers. So the matchup is not great. You might have to wait another week to start him. But eventually, with Jameis now established as the starter for the Browns and Tillman now establishing himself as that alpha outside receiver, okay, so you don't start him until week 10. Big deal.
Yeah, no, you should still feel great that you have him, and especially if you got him a week early and don't have to blow your fab on him this week. Because last week you probably could have gotten him kind of cheap. Now he is going to be through the roof.
Well, that's what I like to do. I prefer to get the guys the week prior when they're inexpensive, and still Elijah Moore are going to be a lot less expensive. As long as you get one of Tillman or Elijah Moore, then you're getting positive returns from this Jameis Winston arrival on the scene. And Jameis Winston is a good streaming option moving forward, just not this week, right? Just not this week. Who do you like as a better streaming option at quarterback? Malik Willis or Bo Nix?
That's a good question. I mean, Bo Nix has been borderline elite for the past month.
Yes.
I don't know how to feel about that. It kind of makes me sick to my stomach. But you got to say Bo Nix just because we've seen it more.
They're at Baltimore. Of course you're going to
Yeah,
it's Bo Nix for sure. It's Bo Nix, but Malik
but
Willis
same
very
time,
viable
I
this
don't
week,
know.
right?
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, definitely would rank Nix higher.
So you have Malik Willis at home against the Lions. How do you read that situation?
Well, to start, we should probably say that it's not a guarantee that Malik Willis will start. There's a chance that Jordan Love is good to go. I think it's probably Malik Willis, but it's tough to say.
What do we say? 80% chance it's Willis?
Maybe 70. Yeah.
Okay, we are talking middle of the afternoon on a Tuesday. For all of you podcast listeners, this is middle of the afternoon on Tuesday. Things could change. Love practices. Now he's on track to play. Okay, but we're saying at this point, 70% chance it's Malik Willis. We hate it because it takes a lot of these Packers receivers out of play. Can you still start Jayden Reed with Willis under center? You can, right?
I don't want to ever sit Jayden Reed. He has been kind of disappointing the last couple of weeks, but especially with Malik Willis, I think that he is the easiest guy to get the ball to. You can get him the ball underneath, and you can get him the ball in the run game. You can't do that with the other Packers receivers. So I would have Reed as the number one Packer receiver this week and rest of the season, just because he's the guy.
Jayden Reed, absolutely for real, still for real.
He'll be volatile.
For real.
All of those receivers are going to be volatile because there's just four guys with relatively even target shares.
Is Dontavian Wicks for real? I don't know what to do with him. Every time I think he's going to produce, he doesn't. Then he does produce when I don't expect him to produce. I feel like he is the quintessential uber volatile wide receiver who is part of an ambiguous passing core where you can't tell one way or the other what they're going to do. One receiver this week, another receiver that week. It's Dobbs this week. It's a long touchdown for Watson that week. Suddenly, Wicks gets 8 targets this week.
Yeah, I don't know how to figure out Wicks. It seems like the guy's always open. You just can't catch the football. So he should be the reliable guy because he's always open. But
is that a reason to go get Wicks in Dynasty?
Well, the thing is, we did see a snap share decrease this past week. Christian Watson took a bunch of snaps from him.
Okay.
And I do think that the drops matter in terms of playing time, not necessarily projecting future catch rate, just in terms of will he be on the field, probably less after all of these drops he's had.
But, see, okay, your league mates know about the drops. And you can tell your league mates, hey, listen, I know about the snap share decrease. I know he's losing. You could, when you kick off trade talks with whoever has Wicks, you can front load the conversation by saying, hey, I understand these aspects of Dontavian Wicks. I'm not trying to angle shoot you here. I just like him as a player. I'm going to be fully transparent with you. I like him for these reasons, and I know these are the other reasons why his value has declined, and I know that you don't want to sell low on him, but he is dropping a lot of passes, and there are real concerns, but I'm going to look past those concerns and just try to have an open line, open dialogue with whoever has him.
Yeah, I mean, in Dynasty, I'm definitely more interested. I was thinking mostly from a redraft perspective, but in Dynasty, it's probably going to be the same situation for several more years, where Wicks is going to get opportunities in certain weeks, and you'll kind of know when those opportunities are coming. If Dubs or Watson are hurt, then you just plug Wicks in. Maybe you could buy him for a second. Probably any second would get it done, I would think. And I'd be willing to do that on certain teams.
I believe he is the third best receiver on this team. It's close. He and Bo Melton.
Might be fourth.
It's very close. Yeah, I think he could be below Bo Melton. He's definitely better than Dobbs. Longer term, Dobbs is going to 0.
I don't know.
Christian Watson has not stepped up. You'd think a healthy Christian Watson would be more productive by this point in the season, would have more dynasty value, but he doesn't. So this is where I think there's an opening to get a player like Dontavian Wicks super inexpensively in Dynasty. And the only cards that can come next help him. Think about what just happened in Tampa. Their top wide receiver duo vaporized. Baker Mayfield doesn't care. He's still going to put up 20 fantasy points, 28 fantasy points last week. He's lock him in for now. But eventually he's going to feel the pain of losing one of the top wide receiver duos in the league. Brandon Ayuk, torn ACL. No T. Higgins. We haven't had Nico Collins. We haven't had Puka Nacua until last week. We just got Cooper Kupp back. You think about all the injuries. Now we might not get Diggs for the rest of the season. And on and on and on and on and on and on and on. Who else didn't play last week? Oh, Deontay Johnson. Like, there's so many situations that could come up where Dobbs gets an injury, Jayden Reed gets a concussion. I mean, there's all these things that happen where now Wicks is in an opportunity. Now, all you need is 1 week. In Dynasty, you're just worried about that 1 week that's out there. That one red ball week is out there. There's an injury or two. Wicks suddenly gets 10 targets and goes 8 for 110 and 2 touchdowns. Now, all of a sudden, his Dynasty value has tripled, and you won't get him. He's the type of player that could happen to. Asymmetrical upside in Dynasty at an absolute low point based on drops, which we know are typically randomized. I know there's some situations where you can explain the drops, like with Tank Dell. Like this, he's just tilting as a player because he's not 100% healthy. Otherwise, it will revert back to the mean.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely.
So
I think
so now you're going to go out and go submit some offers for Wicks, right?
I don't know. I mean, all of my teams are competing except for one, and I don't really want Wicks on the competing teams too much. I'd rather hold those picks to see if I need like a running back later that I can buy for a second,
That's why I asked. That's why I asked that question. I like to ask real people with real teams who know what they're doing, and I love that all of your teams are competitive. That's what I want to hear, baby.
Except one. One of them is absolutely in the dirt.
So what's the plan with that one team?
Well, just, making deals. I have a ridiculous amount of picks in that league. It was a startup last year, and I just I went total win now, and I missed on everything. Everyone got hurt. Cooper Kupp, Jaylen Waddle, Nick Chubb, Garrett Wilson, Jamar Chase. All of these guys had injuries or just sucked last year. So I sold the entire team for picks, basically. Right now,
even
I bought
Chase?
Kyler. I sold Chase for A.J. Brown plus, and then traded A.J. Brown for Kyler recently. Bought Kyler on the low. And this week, I really want to buy Anthony Richardson. We'll talk about him later. But yeah, I still have a pretty good receiving core. Pickens, Waddle, Xavier Worthy. I traded Keon Coleman this past week. Who did I trade him for? I can't remember. But I
You
traded
traded
Keon
Keon Coleman before the eruption
I did.
in
It
week
sucked.
8.
But I still don't really believe, I
It's
just
hard
don't
to
think
believe.
he's that great.
It's hard.
Uh,
It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah.
Especially when you're living off of Josh Allen extending plays, it makes it hard. It makes it hard to be fully in on Keon Coleman.
I traded Keon plus for Ayuk since I'm rebuilding.
Oh, well, I like that. Yeah. Oh, I like that a lot. Oh, that's a good one. That's great. Let us know in the chat, in the comments. What do you think of that trade for
it was Keon in 2 seconds.
That is Keon Coleman in 2 seconds for Brandon Ayuk. Let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat. What do you think of that? I'm interested to hear. I mean, fleecing. They're saying fleecing. You're fleecing people. That's what they're saying. So we made it to Tyrone Tracy bell cow season already. I did not see this coming. You have to admit.
Neither.
You have to admit, because I see every week the breakdown of the projected opportunities for all players. Like, so it was, how could anyone have known that the coaching staff would abandon a player like Devin Singletary, an established veteran that does all the right things, team leader, team captain guy, that they would just relegate him down to 2 or 3 touches?
There's no way to predict it.
I'm so happy about this. Listen, I'm not complaining. It's just that I didn't see Tyrone Tracy as a strong start last week. In a game with like a 35-point total, they had like 15 implied points. It's just very difficult to start any player in a game where there's just no points to be scored. And then you have to find that one player that's going to score the touchdown in that game. It's a very difficult needle to thread, as opposed to you get a team that's, has some of these 28 implied points. You can get a bunch of different players scoring. And, we've had weeks where big shootout, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase get there. Like, that's where you should be focused. So this week in particular, I'm focused on these games, in particular, the matchups by home dogs. There's a couple home dogs that are looking at potential comeback shootouts this week. I mean, the Packers are one, right? So that's a home game.
Yeah.
And, they're 3.5 point dogs to the Lions at home. And then there's also some road dogs where they're staring down the barrel of a shootout. In those particular games, you can play a fringier option just because there's so many points up for grabs. Jacoby Myers. Who's not starting Jacoby Myers this week?
Have to.
You have to start him, right? With Gardner Minshew under center?
Probably a wide receiver too. Yeah, you got to start him.
You got to start him. We talked about Jayden Reed. That is the case for Jayden Reed. And you can go all the way down. Now, would you go all the way down to, say, Parker Washington? We're talking about, right, a Jaguars team that are 7.5 point dogs against the Eagles, and they give up top 5 fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers. Parker Washington is the de facto. I mean, he is one of the best examples of an average wide receiver. Just straight average down the line. Average, just a Romeo Dobbs type profile. 200 pounds, runs a 4.52, 50th percentile college dominator. just not an impressive prospect, but a professional wide receiver, right? So you take a professional wide receiver where now he is the de facto number 1.
Isn't Gabe Davis healthy?
No, Gabe Davis was hurt.
No? Jeez.
Gabe Davis left and did not return. I mean,
their whole team
he
left
could
and did
play.
not
I mean,
return.
it's not a sure thing. Gabriel Davis could absolutely play this week. He's not out for multiple weeks like Brian Thomas
but
is.
Even if he does play, it's
even
not
if
like
Gabriel
he's the
Davis does
guaranteed
play,
number 1.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's a good situation. I'll probably rank Washington around the wide receiver 30-ish range.
This is
Um,
deep leagues,
but
man.
Engram is the one.
Yeah, I don't want to bury the lead here. Like, could
Yeah,
Engram be the tight end one in our projections this week?
totally. I
Totally.
haven't finished the projections yet, but it's totally possible.
Why not? Now, what are we going to do with Tyrone Tracy?
Well, vault him to the moon if he's
I mean,
getting
it's
90% of the
just post him
touches.
up as an RB1 the rest of the way, or what?
I don't know about RB1 just because the offense sucks. And, he did get 90% of the touches this game, but it's a one game sample. Don't want to get too over ourselves
Do
on
you think they just forgot to put
one game sample.
Singletary in and like they'll game plan this week? Be like, hey, we got to get Motor more involved. We forgot. Sorry, Motor. Won't happen again.
That was such a strange one. We love to see it,
Oh,
but
I'm
I
so
thought that
happy.
Singletary had good metrics when he was healthy this season, and he's a favorite of Daboll's, so I didn't expect this to happen. We did have Tracy projected for more touches, which is a good look, but nothing to that extent, obviously.
Right, nothing to that extent. Again, it was okay. Given the game situation, it was okay to wait a week to start Tyrone Tracy. So if you bench Tracy, you benched Cedric Tillman, it's okay. It's okay to get a look at Jameis Winston and then go from there. It's okay to see what the personnel packages are going to look like and the touch trends are going to look like in a game with such a low total and then go from there. Now you can confidently play Tyrone Tracy.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's very exciting. I mean, look at this guy. Anytime your best comparable player is Rachaad White, I love you. I love it. He's 5'11", 210. How does he fall to the end of the fifth round? It doesn't make sense. His yards per carry was 6.3. So he was super efficient. He's got a nice college target share. He's an incredible athlete. Anytime you run a sub 11.0 agility score, I am impressed. I mean, that's the kind of lateral quickness you want. Plus, he runs a sub 4.540, so you got lateral quickness. You could run the 40 and break away on long runs. You're clearly active in the passing game if you're comparable to Rachaad White. You love this. Absolutely love this.
Yeah, the reason he fell in the draft was probably the age. He's almost 25 already.
But we've done the research on this. Age at draft is less predictive for running backs than it is wide receivers. Significantly less predictive, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Age doesn't really matter that much for running backs until, you get to the 27, 28, 29 range. Before that, I don't really care about age too much.
How close was Brian Thomas to overtaking Marvin Harrison in our dynasty rankings? Because we've had many discussions, you, me, Theo, talking about this. Our hearts said Brian Thomas, but our heads said Marvin Harrison. Even me.
Yep.
Even me. I wasn't like pounding the table. I mean, listen, if I really want to pound the table and say, let's take a second, third, fourth look at these 3-year projections and understand the underpinning and the projections, and you can always chip away and see, okay, well, let's look at Gabriel Davis's contract. We could. There's a whole bunch of things you can do, and then next thing you know, it's extrapolated out 3 years. You extrapolate those out 3 years. Okay, now this guy just barely overtakes this guy. If you really want to put your thumb on the scale, you can. We don't do that, but it's possible, and I'm sure it could have been done because we were emotionally very invested, all of us, very invested in Brian Thomas. He's just such an exciting player. I love the idea of he and Neighbors coming up together at LSU. But then Marvin Harrison comes out and reestablishes himself, and Brian Thomas gets hurt. So it was heartbreaking to see them converging, and then now the gap widening again.
Yeah, I think if this week would have gone differently, we would have made the move. It was really like 1 week away. But I also looked at Marvin's game-by-game stats yesterday. Listen to this. We got his last 6 healthy games. These are his target shares: 38%, 31%, 27%, 24%, 25%, 24%. So the lowest is 24%. And now let's look at air yards in those 6 healthy games: 70, 47%, 33, 40, 42, 49. The guy has been putting up stats every week. He just hasn't been translating them to fantasy points.
Marvin Harrison.
Correct.
But he has had some big spike weeks.
He has. Yes.
He just hasn't been efficient catching the football. He's had a low catch rate.
Correct.
The one metric, the one advanced metric where he underperforms the most is catch rate.
Yeah, if you want to call that an advanced metric.
It's not really that advanced.
No.
You know what I like about Marvin Harrison? I like his new headshot that he did for the team. I don't
think I've seen this.
You haven't seen this? Have you seen this? Look at that.
Oh, that's good.
That's really good. I mean, that's some
menacing.
serious sex appeal right there. That's making me question things.
That's how I feel about Sexy Dexy. Don't get me started.
I won't. So we had the National Tight End Appreciation Week last week. Also, National Rookie Appreciation Week, led by Ladd McConkey. So we had Evan Ingram, we had Kyle Pitts. I mean, even David Njoku. Like, these players are overshadowed, right? You had, how many targets did Zach Ertz get? 11 targets? Unbelievable, right? So what's happening? My theory is, because there's been so many wide receiver injuries, that these players are better than a lot of the second, third, and fourth receivers on their respective teams. So they're the ones that are stepping into these target voids.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a huge part of it. I said, I got to admit my mistakes. I said before the season, there's no elite tight ends this year, actually. And I was dead wrong. There's at least one, George Kittle, and there could be several more. Kelsey, Njoku, Bowers, McBride. It's going to be a great year for tight ends.
Bowers. I can't, after how slow it started, it was the slowest year, the least productive year for tight ends in my memory. And now the way the wide receiver injuries have played out and how it is a talented group. It just we couldn't find anyone we could say, oh, that's the guy. He's going to be like Kittle and Laporta and down the line, Kyle Pitts, we know, is super talented. Who's going to be the guy that's going to step into a primary number one option role for his team? Very difficult to say. Thought it could be Kincaid. No, as it turns out, because of injuries, Kittle. And
yep.
And he was due. He had some monster games and monster seasons, but hadn't put together a full season of production in a number of years. And so this is a feel-good thing to happen to George Kittle.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to see it as a Seahawks fan, but yeah, he's a great dude, it seems like, and always rooting for him. Yeah, he had 6 touchdowns last year, and now he already has 6 touchdowns.
Is there a particular tight end that you think is still undervalued even after week 8?
Well, it's tough to say because there's so many. I would say maybe Evan Ingram have the markets caught up, or Kyle Pitts, or David Njoku. There's so many. McBride hasn't really been talked about recently, but he is leading tight ends in target share.
There it is. So it's very conceivable that it's actually McBride at the end of this whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, we've had him as a top 3 tight end rest of season the whole time.
I didn't even mention Tucker Kraft.
Yeah.
Tucker Kraft that's found money for anyone that picked him up off the waiver wire. What I also enjoy is that these are the guys that are delivering. These are the guys that are now in situations where they can be the team's leading receiver, like David Njoku, like George Kittle. Not Jake Ferguson. not Dalton Schultz, not just guys that just happen to find themselves in situations where they're commanding a big target share, where they're on the right offense at the right time. Almost every receiver, except Cade Otton, right? Cade Otton is that guy now. He's luck boxed the number one target share on his team just based on process of elimination.
Yeah, great time to sell.
That's not exciting. Yeah, there's no better sell in Dynasty at tight end than Cade Otton right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also this week, isn't this one of the two wide receivers, whether it be Jaylen McMillan or Trey Palmer, is going to have a week? They're going to Kansas City, right? Isn't this the week where like, oh, I thought it was last week. I bid on McMillan, or I picked up Palmer just in case he breaks out. Now I'm dropping these guys. At home against the Falcons, I thought this would be the week. And then you drop these guys, and instead of paying 5% of your fab to get McMillan, you can go just get him for $0 now. That's always a strong move, right? It's always a fun thing to do where you're like, oh, actually, it's this week was the week to have McMillan, and you just let me have him for free. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty low on the Tampa passing game for this week. I trust the Chiefs defense a lot. I mean, it's way better than Atlanta's. Not even close.
So it's possible that we just have a blowout.
No, not a blowout, because the Chiefs aren't going to score enough. It's just going to be a low-scoring game like all the Chiefs games, and they'll scratch out a dub probably.
I guess so. The Buccaneers are scoring all these points week in, week out. Then you look at the game total, and it's under 45. And the Chiefs are 9-point favorites. The Buccaneers have no implied points this week. That's what you're looking at. And in that particular scenario, sometimes if it's, you're 9-point dogs, this is a case to play the quarterback and a wide receiver from that team, knowing you're just chasing the comeback mode. You're chasing the garbage time. What you're saying is not in this situation, not against the Chiefs. The Chiefs will not only smother you, they will finish the game. You're not going to have opportunities like you might against some other teams to get some cheap scores.
Yeah, I don't project there to be garbage time in this game. I think the spread is too high, and I like Tampa Bay's line there at 8.5. But yeah, I'm not expecting garbage time. I'm sure Baker will try to sling it around the yard because they won't be able to run the ball on the Chiefs. I doubt it. Rachaad White, target share. What do we think? 20%? Is that too high?
That seems right to me. I think that Rashad, you just keep going back to Rachaad White. Whatever you're doing, there is no situation where you're benching Rachaad White.
No, it's a good run out for him.
It is. It is great. Now, there is a tight end who was one of the top producers last year that we haven't talked about yet. He's also athletic. He actually looks a lot like George Kittle. Went to the same college as George Kittle, similar athletic profile to George Kittle. Was drafted in the top 10. I think at this point, you know who I'm talking about. There's another option, right? So now we're talking about 12-team fantasy leagues where there's 24 tight ends that people want to play.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Who would have thought we'd be here?
So what do you do, though? If you have TJ Hawkinson, what should people do? What do you recommend? Let's say your buddy has TJ Hawkinson. He's like, I have Hawkinson. What should I do?
Just hold him and start him every week. I love Hawkinson. Are you saying that he has two tight ends? And
no, I'm saying that
one of them, or?
He definitely has one of these other tight ends.
Yeah.
Okay, so your buddy has one of these tight ends. Let's say it's Tucker Kraft. Okay, he has a tight end that's broken out, who's been producing week in, week out. Hopefully it's not Cade Otton. Or hopefully it is Cade Otton. You tell me. Hawkinson comes back. Your attitude is, we're above consensus on Hawkinson. We're very bullish. Trust Hawkinson. Trust that offense. And sell whatever tight end got you to this point, say thank you very much, shake hands with that tight end, and off he goes.
Yeah, 100%. Hawkinson is the guy. He's proven to be he can win in a variety of ways. Whereas Tucker Kraft, he's really a very low ADOT player that's just yak, and he's broken some big plays for touchdowns. But I think Hawkinson will be a more consistent part of his offense.
Even Njoku, you'd take him over Njoku?
Oh, no way. Njoku to the moon.
Oh, thank God. Okay, I was. Where's the line? That's the line. That's the line. Okay.
I mean, Njoku could be tight end 1. I don't think Hawkinson could be tight end 1.
Especially coming off an injury, I just don't see it.
Yeah.
Should I be stashing Ricky Pearsall even with McCaffrey coming back?
I wouldn't say McCaffrey has a huge role in that. Are you talking
for me, it matters because
Dynasty?
if he's going to be a part of this hyper consolidated 3-target offense, right?
It
one
does
of 3
affect
options.
it some.
If he's one of 4 options, suddenly it's a lot less sexy.
Yeah, and I really do think that Jawan Jennings will outplay Pearsall for the rest of the season.
Really?
Although Pearsall, I was surprised at how efficient he was, how good he looked in his his first couple of games back. That was very surprising.
Yeah, generally, I'm super reticent to just flip on a player, right? Because there's underlying metrics which drive me to fading a player or being bullish on a player, and it's going to take more than just what we saw last week from Keon Coleman to convince me that I should be in on Keon Coleman.
Right.
Even though Pearsall scored like half the fantasy points of Keon Coleman, the performance was really impressive. This guy ran the ball for 40 yards. This guy had a 100% catch rate. And he's really athletic. And he just got back from rehabbing a gunshot wound or a knife wound. Was it a knife or a gunshot?
Gunshot through the chest.
What?
Yeah.
I know it was a mugging.
Yeah,
The
through
guy
the
was
chest.
shot. I can't believe he was back so quickly.
I know. It's incredible. And he's playing amazing.
And he's been super efficient.
We were very high on him.
Yeah, I mean, he was part of this totally anemic Florida offense, just notoriously bad offense in college. And so there's reasons why, like we talked about Nico Collins, he was part of a Michigan offense that year in, year out was underperforming expectations because Jim Harbaugh's attitude is we're going to grind people into the ground. We're going to grind our opponents into dust. We're not going to be airing it out to Nico Collins. That's not the game plan. So I don't love players where there's one particular wow factor play that is driving the hype, which is what we saw with Ricky Pearsall throughout the process. But everything else about Ricky Pearsall is very intriguing. Very exciting, very encouraging, and then not giving you any dud performances or inefficient performances to point to and go, okay, this guy's outmatched, this guy's not ready.
Yeah.
I'm actually bullish. I think that if you happen to be in a very deep league and you've scooped every one of the top 10 handcuff backs, that it's time that at that point you can start to think about stashing and Ricky Pearsall eat the bye week. That's how you get leverage sometimes, is be willing to eat the bye week.
Absolutely. Yeah. We loved Pearsall as a player. The situation was not great at all. He will get playing time. It's just a matter of how much playing time. I'm not totally sure. I still like him a lot. I'm just, in terms of like a projections process, it's hard for me to, project a breakout down the stretch just because CMC's coming back and Kittle's there. Debo should be healthy, we think.
We think. This is the thing. We think Kittle is healthy. Like last week, Theo and I are talking about Kittle and how he's as healthy as he's been in many years, and the next thing you know, he pops up with an injury.
Yep.
And everyone in the comments is like, "Oh, guess he's not healthy after all." What was it last week? Was it a groin? What was it? It was something.
I think it was an ankle.
Ankle? I don't know. Whatever it was, something. It's always something with him.
Yeah.
Right?
But
it's always
he will
something
play
with
through it.
Debo.
He's a dog.
He is a dog, but it's always something. There's always something with. They're both dogs. You love how these guys are wired. I love how Ricky Pearsall's wired.
Yeah, same thing.
Like he was like there was a carjacking that just happened in my town, where the guys followed. It was a Porsche. Of course, it was a Porsche. They followed the Porsche from the gas station, and then he happened to be driving past like the on-ramp to the highway, and then they pulled out in front of him, blocked him, jumped out of the car, pulled a gun, and this guy was like, hey, take my car. You know what I mean? And then they just got on the on-ramp, drove off. The two cars drove off, gone, right? And I was like, whoa, that freaks you out when you hear that. I don't think they would have gotten Ricky Pearsall's Porsche. I don't think so. I mean, again, I want to make sure everybody in this audience knows if you're mugged or you're held up, give them everything. Your life is what's important, but there are just certain people that you could probably, if they have a track record of just being that guy and not just saying no in those situations, and then taking a gunshot, and then it's back to work for Ricky Pearsall. Given this injury track record that we have for McCaffrey, for Debo, for Kittle, it makes stashing Ricky Pearsall that much more interesting and that much more upside. And just, I want to be able to get the if things break my way, I want the maximum. And that's what's attractive about Pearsall. Not like, oh, what is his projection going to be exactly in week 11?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yep. If you have the room, you should definitely stash him. He's got the upside.
I love it. But of all these tight ends, you're also still a big fan of Travis Kelce.
It has dampened a little bit with the Hopkins trade. I think that Hopkins, he's a reliable chain mover kind of guy like Kelce is, and he will take some of those like third down targets away from Kelce. I still think Kelce's probably top 3 to 5-ish tight end rest of season. I was on Kelce tight end 1 for a couple weeks there, but that's been dampened a bit.
Question in the chat, looking at rookie receivers, because this is rookie season. This is the time. If we go back, I go back to Rob Gronkowski's rookie season, where he barely played for the first 7 weeks, and then at the midpoint in the season, they unleashed Gronk. This is the time when rookies get unleashed. This is another reason why I like Pearsall. But I don't have him in the same tier of rookie who's about to melt faces as Rome Odunze.
Oh, no doubt.
That's the question in the chat, right? I mean, Rome Odunze was the leading receiver last week. He was the leading receiver against the Colts earlier this season. Anyone that watched Hard Knocks knows that this is the alpha in waiting. How should we be strategizing around acquiring or using Rome Odunze this week and weeks ahead, Dynasty, everything?
No doubt that there is a spike week coming soon. I can't say exactly when it'll be, but it should come soon. I would say that all those Bears receivers are kind of difficult to project just because they have relatively even target shares when they're on the field together. Rome has the highest depth of target by far among all of them, which helps his upside case, but also lowers his floor a little bit. This week they get the Cardinals, Caleb is going to have a good day. He's killed bad teams. It's just a matter of who he brings along. I like Rome. I would really hope that it would be Rome. I would probably say Rome over Keenan for this week, but not DJ Moore quite yet.
Why is that total only 44.5? The 44.5 point total weirded me out.
That is fairly low. I mean, Chicago's got a great defense. Am I reading this right? Is Chicago underdogs to Arizona?
Yeah, Arizona's a 1-point favorite.
Well, what the hell's going on with that line?
I don't understand this line at all. I would pick the Bears on the road to win that game, and I would think that the total would be something like 47.5.
But I mean, don't get how they're projecting
the
Arizona
week last week. I mean, the fact that Bears defense dragged that game against Washington into the mud, and it would have been even lower scoring had it not been for the fucking Hail Mary.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one of the nonsense lines of the week. I don't understand it at all.
Okay, good. I'm glad we're on the same page here. So the MVP race, that's a wrap, right?
Let's relax. You're talking about Jayden Daniels, MVP?
Yeah, of course. The Hail Mary. No?
I still think that the favorites are Lamar, who's playing out of his mind. He did have another, he has these rough games on occasion.
Sorry, did I say MVP? I meant Rookie of the Year.
Oh, that's been locked up.
I know. That's what I meant. I didn't mean that. I'm an idiot. Did I say MVP?
You did.
I can't believe I did that. I even wrote it down on the show sheet. You should have correct. I wish. God damn it.
I thought that's what you meant.
We got to edit the show. We got to edit the show in post production.
It's not impossible.
Why did I say it? Why did I say it's a wrap? It's not a wrap. The Rookie of the Year is a wrap. Yes. It wasn't a wrap though, because the reason I was thinking this. God, this is embarrassing. The reason why I was thinking it's not a wrap was that they were going to play each other in week 8, and then Jayden Daniels would have to play the Bears, potentially look really bad in a game where Caleb Williams looks good. So this is another one of those where they were converging, and then after this game, now it's over. It's like they were getting closer, and there was a possibility that Caleb takes down the Rookie of the Year, and then after this performance with the Hail Mary, it's over. It's not. I don't think it was definitely Jayden Daniels until week 8.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, he was the clear front runner, but yeah, this week pretty much locked it down, barring something significant. But we should be clear: the favorites for MVP, Lamar, Josh Allen, and even Mahomes, even though it's the worst year of his career statistically, if they just win 16 or 17 games, he'll probably win it. And one other is Jared Goff.
Okay, so we know Jayden Daniels has the Rookie of the Year wrapped up now. And you're saying that Lamar has more than just Josh Allen for competition for the MVP?
Yeah.
Jared Goff?
You're telling me that if Mahomes goes undefeated, that he won't have a serious MVP case regardless of stats? I think he'll easily be in the conversation.
God, we're doing this right now? We're doing MVP conversations? I started.
You're the one that put it on the show sheet.
I did. I started. I put this on the show sheet. Rookie of the Year, MVP. God, I hate myself. Why did I do this to myself? I hate it when I find myself being pulled like into a black hole of MVP talk, and I don't want to do it. And I'm like, no! Like, it's Lamar, though, right? Can we just say it's probably Lamar? Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right. There we go. Yeah, Lamar Jackson, yes, Uncle Ted. We know this. We're just having a conversation. Okay? We're having a conversation.
It's not over, though. But yes, it's Lamar.
Oftentimes, teams that are undefeated, any possibility for Jalen Hurts?
Ooh, I mean, I guess. The thing is, I just think the Eagles are going to fall apart at some point. I just don't believe in it, especially with Sirianni there.
Chaiwan 1, again, another new member of the audience. Love it, love it. Everyone, again, if you're feeling at all like you want to be part of this conversation, throw it in the chat, man. Hit the live chat button on YouTube and contribute. You can reply on Twitter. You're watching it on Twitter X. Just hit the reply button. We'll get it. You can be part of it. Please, by all means. Love to see you.
Chaiwan's right. Plus 2,000, that's a pretty good bet. I
think Hurts at plus 2,000 is a great value. I think he's absolutely right. He's dead on.
For sure.
I mean, Hurts has been great.
Mm-hmm. He was incredible.
Got a lot of season to go, man. Sure. I don't think you penciling in Lamar, I disagree with that.
I told you it's not over, but it's Lamar right now. Stop putting words in my mouth.
I said that.
You also said Jayden Daniels wrapped up the MVP.
Listen, now I have to edit this part of the show. You're making it harder to edit the show now. God, we've got to do a lot of post-production on this.
I don't know if you know this, but there are over 400 people watching live. Can't cut that.
You can't. They all saw me misspeak and stumble. Yeah. It's funny. Like, if we really want to go full meta here, I think what happened was I was very tired when I was putting the show together, the show sheet last night, and this was just a typo. And then me being the anchor man that I am, I just sort of went with it as I was going down the show sheet, not even understanding what the fuck I was reading. And the next thing we know, we are burning 5 minutes of valuable show explaining how I said MVP instead of Rookie of the Year. It really goes back to I need to get these show sheets out earlier. And I always say this to all my guests. I always apologize. I'm going to have Sigmund Bloom on, and that's going to be great. And I need to get in the habit before that show happens to start getting these show sheets out earlier. And I'll be a little sharper when I'm putting things together. So I apologize that you had a suboptimal show sheet here to deal with. You've done your best. You've done a great job, Evan.
Well, let's move on.
Yes. Terry McLaurin, okay, because we were talking about Jayden Daniels at some point. Terry McLaurin was so good on Sunday. So good. And I had a bold prediction that he would be a wide receiver 1 this year. Do you think that can happen?
Yeah, for sure. We were super high on him as well. I think we had him around 30th overall in the redraft rankings, which was way above consensus. Consensus was like 60 to 70, I think.
Well, no, but after the Jahan Dotson trade, that's a signal that you need to capitalize on, and his ADP barely moved. So we'll take it. We'll take the win. We'll take the W on that.
Yeah, very similar to DJ Moore. Great player that can do all kinds of different things, just stuck in a horrible situation. And now they both have good quarterbacks. Moore has more competition. McLaurin, it's just all him.
Yep, yeah.
There's nothing
every day McLaurin shows up at the facility. This is McLaurin. You have to, right? So, I mean, another player that's similar is Chris Godwin. When I actually put Godwin and McLaurin and DJ Moore in a very similar tier of players, they're a similar age. They sort of came up together. They have similar statures. They're 6 foot, 210, similar elite athletic profiles. They're elite target earners. They win in all areas of the field. Another player that has come up that is reminiscent of these guys, and I don't think most people would, classify Jaylen Waddle with that group of players. When I look at Jaylen Waddle, I see a Godwin, a McLaurin, and the last few weeks I got to see what would that player look like in a terrible situation with no quarterback, having to share a field with Tyreek Hill. So what do we do with Jaylen Waddle, I need the green light from you to play him this week because I really want to play him.
Well, first of all, I think that is just the best comp you've had this year. That's amazing. Jaylen Waddle is Terry McLaurin. Perfect. I think that, you can definitely play him if you have to. It's just one of those things where he's going to have big games, and it's tough to figure out when those will come. There should be a lot of points in their game against Buffalo this week. So it's a pretty decent chance that this is the week, but it's going to be volatile.
Well, that was a non-answer.
I'm an expert at that.
Talk to us about the biggest movers on the season rankings. So every week you update the season rankings, and this is so all of you that have the subscription to the rankings, and if you're just tuning in, the promo code is BOO, B-O-O. Promo code is BOO, B-O-O, for $69 off the all-in package for a grand total price of $66 for Halloween season. You're welcome. Promo code is BOO. And with the season rankings, it helps you make decisions about guys you want to trade for, how you want to manage your roster. Who is a player that you've seen move up and another player that you've seen move down, and you're like, I can't believe it's every week with this guy?
Yeah, I think one guy that's fluctuated quite a bit this year was DeAndre Swift, and that hasn't been related to injury at all. It's just at the beginning of the year, he sucked, and all of the efficiency metrics were horrible. And then these past few weeks, he has seen not only higher volume, but also much better efficiency. So I think at this point, he is a borderline RB1. I don't feel comfortable saying that, but it's just facts. What do you think about DeAndre Swift?
He's getting all the touches.
Yeah.
And I like this offense. If I like this offense, if I like the passing game, and we say passing game improves, that helps the running back because the running back then has more touchdown scoring opportunities. It's just that they're giving the carries inside the 5 to Roschon Johnson.
Yeah.
So it's also just a reminder that you have to stash Roschon Johnson, check your waiver wire, check your player pool to see if Roschon Johnson's been dropped by anybody. Make sure you scoop him. I have him as a top 5 handcuff. And I did post on Patreon, patreon.com/podfather. This week in my fab guidance, I posted my top 10 handcuffs to scoop up. And I have Roschon Johnson ranked number 4 of the top 10. Number 1, Ray Davis.
Outside of the top 5.
So 1, Ray Davis, 2, Blake Corum, 3, Kamani Vidal, 4, Roschon Johnson.
What about, does Algier count, or is he getting too many touches?
He's not available. He's still like a 40% owned in leagues. I don't think he's available. I think he's certainly top 5. I would put him
number
right
1
there with Roschon. I think maybe ahead of Roschon. Maybe ahead of Vidal, probably 3rd. I think I'd still prefer Davis and Corum, but I think it's very close. I mean, because it's pure handcuffs. You're not. He has standalone value, so that makes him a little more valuable in general than those players, which is why he's more rostered in leagues. Because whenever they get a lead, then he can get 12 fantasy points just from the 10 carries and getting a touchdown. So, but in terms of just pure handcuff value, he's top 3 for sure. But Ray Davis is a better receiver than Algier, though.
Oh, yeah.
Blake Corum, I think, is just a better all-around player. Blake Corum's a little more explosive, a little bit better receiver, and that's a very similar offensive situation.
Yeah, I think Corum's the one.
Yeah, so you would go Corum Davis.
Yeah, I think Vidal should be in the conversation as well, just because for Davis, the goal line carries won't necessarily be there with Allen or the short yardage stuff. Allen's a huge factor there. I would have Ray Davis maybe more like 4 or 3.
That is absolutely fair. It's just that Ray Davis has shown a lot as a receiver, and he even showed a lot as a receiver at Kentucky. And so that, to me, I mean, in that offense, the thing is, like with Saquon Barkley, if you're in a juggernaut offense, you're going to get plenty of touchdowns. Like, don't worry about how many total touchdowns, don't worry about the percentage of touchdowns inside the 5. Just worry about total touchdowns. And so that's the case for Ray Davis. But I mean, I'm not saying Ray Davis is discount Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I mean, all these guys realistically are in a very tight range, and it just matters, which one gets the opportunity.
I mean, I'm not saying Ray Davis is discount Saquon Barkley, but
you're also not saying it. Not saying it.
But he's very exciting. What about Dynasty? Give me a guy who's just been volatile in the Dynasty rankings. Like, DeAndre Swift's been volatile in the season rankings. Give me a guy that's been volatile in the Dynasty rankings.
The one guy I really want to talk about here is one of my favorite receivers in the league, Josh Downs. I think that Downs is just amazing and can do everything as a receiver. But the issue is the offense and the quarterback specifically. That's going to limit his ceiling and his floor. I would love to just put him in the top 12 receivers, but there's no way that he can get even close to that with Richardson.
Well, he's got at least 2 more years left in Indianapolis.
Yeah, it's rough. But he's that dude.
So you think he's just a better player than Pittman?
Oh, easily. So much better.
Oh, easily so much.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you saw this past game, but Pittman
the target share this past week and even the overall efficiency, I mean, he dropped a nuclear bomb on Michael Pittman.
Yeah. No, Pittman looks like he's either not trying or the back is still bugging him and he's just
the back injury is absolutely a factor with Pittman.
Yeah.
Which then the argument is, well, okay, I will happily start the number 1, but I'm not going to go any deeper than that if it's Anthony Richardson or one of these mobile quarterbacks, right? That's why it was always a fringy play to go with Bateman. Bateman's always like an upside fringe option, inexpensive streamer, desperation, because it's Lamar, right? Yeah. And just like Downs, it was a similar thing. But now that Downs is sort of overtaking Pittman as just a better player, more efficient, getting the targets, What about this week? Would you start him this week?
I mean, it's really tough against Minnesota. I really like Minnesota as a DST this week, just because I don't know if we can trust Richardson. I would say that Downs is a wide receiver 3, and you can start him, but he's not a must start.
I think he's a guy you can start. Yeah, I'm not saying must start is very strong. I'm just saying he's a guy you can start with relative confidence. And that I couldn't say that in previous weeks, but this back injury, this is trending toward a lost season for Michael Pittman. Mm-hmm. And I can already see us having this sort of having to have this very difficult conversations about Josh Downs for the next year. Yep, I think this is going to be a constant thing because when it's Flacco, he's awesome. A top 20 receiver in the league.
Yeah. Maybe even higher.
Maybe even higher. I mean, there's a lot of good receivers out there, man.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I love it. Listen, I think I invented having 30 top 20 receivers. Right. I at least invented having 36 top 24 receivers in fantasy. I definitely invented that.
This year we have roughly 12 top 5 tight ends.
That's what I'm saying. So what do we do with Anthony Richardson? You just got done saying about 30 minutes ago that he's top of your shopping list in Dynasty.
Yes. That doesn't necessarily mean that I want the receivers, though. First of all, we need to mention with Richardson that this was always a developmental year. The guy is basically a junior in college. He's the youngest starting quarterback in the league that's played, 20 games, including college and the pros. This was always a developmental year. You need to let him play. And
why did he come out in the first place when he did?
Well, because he got picked top 5. right? That's all that matters.
I know. It's just it really he set himself up to struggle. I really
Yeah.
wish he'd gone back for a year. Would have had Pearsall. Would have been fun. Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. And I also think that the box score for Richardson looks way worse than he's actually playing. Yes, we've seen the completion percentage numbers, one of the least accurate ever in that metric. But I don't think that really tells the whole story. He's had some horrible drops. I honestly think that he is a very good deep ball thrower already. He's accurate. He's got the cannon arm.
You saw him hit the ceiling once, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. The guy is just a specimen. I was thinking about this last night. Let's imagine that Richardson does hit and is a good NFL quarterback. I think there are 4 traits that he would need to do that. First, you have the elite sack avoidance, which we've already seen. The big arm, the accurate deep ball. That's number 2. And I think he's already there, or he's at least close to being there. 3 is the rushing ability, which we haven't really seen, but I still see no reason not to believe in it. And 4,
he had 15 carries a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, we've seen the usage. We haven't necessarily seen the explosiveness we want to see. But
we know
I
he
think
had.
that
That's not a question. Come on.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then the 4th factor is we need moderate accuracy in the short to intermediate range just to move the chains. Because right now, the Colts are first in pace in terms of plays per minute over expected, but they are last in plays per game because they just can't move the football. So in my mind, he is almost already there to being a good quarterback. And we've seen quarterbacks that eventually learn to become more efficient in the short to intermediate range of the field. I think he's a good player, man. And you guys should watch the tape. Sometimes I become a tape bro.
There's serious Josh Allen vibes. Serious Josh Allen. I mean, we're talking
people are going to hate that comp.
Direct parallel to Josh Allen. And he was a lot younger when he came out than Josh Allen was.
Yeah.
Ryan Voltz reminds us that Anthony Richardson would have made a lot of money in college with the NIL rules change. So he should have gone back to Florida for another year. Thank you, Ryan. Great contribution.
Yeah. I mean, the NFL, you get that 4-year contract. That's a lot different. But,
it's different.
There's a case to bet on yourself.
It's still a good point by Ryan.
Yeah, for sure.
I was fooled. I don't think I was as fooled by anyone as much as I was this year about Justin Fields. That was some tricky shit what Pittsburgh did to us.
Yeah.
Did you see this as a possibility this soon, that they would pivot to Russell Wilson?
I definitely saw it as a possibility coming into the year. But once we saw Fields playing the best football that he's played in his career,
it's crazy.
It came out of nowhere.
What happened? Is there hope? Is this a buy low in Dynasty? What do we do?
Look, Fields playing the way he did this year, I think that will get him another job. So I guess now is a pretty good time to buy, but there could be even lower points. He will get another chance. And we saw that this year he can play a more conservative play style, take less sacks, get the ball out quicker. It was very encouraging.
Yes. And I guess you think they're better off with Wilson back there now as a team?
Right now, it looks like it.
It looks like it.
It looks like him and Arthur Smith are just a really good fit.
Oh, God.
Good. Russell Wilson's never been able to throw over the middle of the field, which has really limited his ability throughout his whole career. And now he doesn't have the sack avoidance he used to. But if you put him in the right system where he just throws deep balls and he throws checkdowns, then he can be successful.
Yeah, and Freiermuth is the one tight end we haven't talked about. We never will talk about him because of this.
Yeah.
Devontae Adams. You had him pretty squarely as the new alpha in New York. Are you doubting that status now, or do you think it's just he's a week away.
Yeah, I was definitely wrong to. Devontae has taken over this Garrett Wilson role with the low A dot, like the super low A dot, which has allowed Wilson to run deeper and see more valuable targets. It's really a great sign for Garrett Wilson, I think. Even though I think in Dynasty I'm still kind of out because what the hell happens in New York after this year? But I also expect Adams to continue to be the guy on third down and in the red zone, and the numbers back that up so far.
So still, okay. Who scores more fantasy points for the rest of the season? Devontae Adams or Garrett Wilson?
I have the slightest lean to Garrett Wilson.
Okay. And now I have 10 burning questions. 10 burning questions for Evan Ringler after this. Oh, every week I'm answering these start-sit questions on Sunday morning. I go to the weekly rankings on PlayerProfiler.com just to make sure that my instincts are correct, and sometimes they're not. And guess what? More often than not, I go with the projections. You may not feel great about starting Daniel Jones or Wan'Dale Robinson, but the projections say, hey, that's the move. It may not feel right, but you use those projections to get it right. That's the power of the Player Profiler system. It's Evan Ringler, it's Bradley Stalder, it's Theo Greminger, of course, it's Billy Muzio making these rankings possible. The season rankings, so you know who to pick up, who to trade for. The Dynasty rankings are part of this. The offensive line rankings from Dan Fornick, one of the best in the business. Then we get our cornerback rankings, which show which corners are matched up with which wide receivers. And now, in collaboration with the IDP show, we have IDP rankings. Did you know that? Did you? So go to playerprofiler.com. Use promo code PODFATHER. Promo code PODFATHER. Get you 25% off the player rankings package right now at playerprofiler.com. Enjoy! Promo code is BOO. Promo code is BOO for $69 off. $69 off the all-in package. Yep, you can get it for just $66 for Halloween. 10 burning questions for Evan Ringler. What do you think of Drake Maye?
I really loved Drake Maye as a prospect. I think he has somewhat of a boom-bust play style. Very good deep ball thrower. I kind of question the sack avoidance and the underneath accuracy, but I'm pretty high on him in Dynasty. I think he'll be continuing to move up every week.
He's had 2 starts. Okay.
Very mobile.
33 attempts and 37 attempts. In those 3 starts, he's put up an average of 250 yards, about 260 air yards, 7.5 yards per attempt, very consistent, couple touchdowns in both games. He's had 2 games with 30-plus rushing yards. And in those 2 games, he was a top 10 fantasy quarterback in both of the games he started. One was against Houston, a little more challenging. Then it got easier against Jacksonville, put up a 70% completion percentage. As a rookie?
Yeah.
Age just turned 22. Talk about age. Talk about a young rookie, a young quarterback. This is why they wanted to slow play him initially. It made sense.
In that situation,
it's a tough situation where Kayshon Boutte is your number 1 option. If it's not Hunter Henry, if it's not Pop Douglas.
Yeah. It's incredibly impressive. Even in this past game, he was just amazing as a runner until he got hurt. I think he outproduced Anthony Richardson, despite Richardson playing a full game. He's an amazing asset.
He and Anthony Richardson are actually much more similar prospects than you might think. They have similar speed, similar age. I mean, some similar metrics. It's just that Drake Maye was more productive as a passer, more efficient as a passer.
No question, he's a much better passer. No question.
So you would rather have Maye or Richardson in Dynasty?
Ooh, that's tough. That is really tough. I might take Maye. I think it's about
Maye.
even.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Maye has already shown us games we have yet to see from Richardson.
Yeah. Where does this put him, do you think? Top 12? range. I think he's probably in that area.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Permission to get excited if you're a Patriots fan. Permission to get excited
Yeah.
if you drafted this guy. I mean, it's a very rare thing in superflex rookie drafts, 2QB rookie drafts, where you're sitting at the 104, 105, and a quarterback like Drake Maye makes it to you. You might have to go back to that Josh Allen draft 5-6 years ago when you saw that happen. Wow. Right. I think Josh Rosen
draft
was in that draft. Was that Sam Darnold in that draft too?
Oh,
Was that Goff,
I couldn't tell
Darnold,
you.
Allen? I may be wrong
think you're
about that.
mixing
Let us
some
know in the
years
chat
together.
who was in that draft. We could look it up. But yeah, Drake Maye.
The rookie draft class, just
already
incredible.
super special. Super special. But again, because people really wanted Marvin Harrison Jr., understandable, right? Somewhat, Malik Neighbors, you're sitting at the 105 in Superflex or 2QB, and you can get Drake Maye. I mean, what a gift. Whereas other years, that's the 101.
Absolutely.
What are you expecting from Isaac Garendo the rest of the way?
Well, the number one question is how many games are we going to get of him as a starter? They have a bye this week, and reports are that CMC, there's a good chance he plays the next week after that.
Right.
So I'm not sure if we get a single game out of Garendo. That being said, if we do, I think he'll absolutely smash. He's an elite handcuff at the moment. And I'm curious what you think about Jordan Mason versus Garendo, assuming both are healthy. I think that Garendo is possibly ahead of him on the depth chart now. Just he's so much more explosive.
He has to be, and I also like what we're seeing around the league where it seems coaches are a little bit faster to make these switches. There's a little less veteran deference that I talk about, my 10 years in this business. 10 years ago, like I said, Devin Singletary would have been the starter and would have been getting most of the carries. Times have changed, man. Times have changed. So this makes me think that we're more likely to see Garendo. I mean, especially San Francisco. One year, they decided on a whim to just start Elijah Mitchell week 1 and not even tell the beat reporters. No one had any idea. They're like, wait, who's starting? I thought he was the number 3. No, he's the number 1. Wait, what? So Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers have a history of doing this, which makes me feel good.
Of lying, yeah.
Yeah, of just playing the most explosive back, even if he's small or even if he was a late round pick. I don't know how the hell Isaac Garendo fell as far as he did into day 3, just like I don't understand how Pacheco made it to round 7. But these are similar guys. I mean, if I had to pick the next Pacheco, it would be Garendo. So if we're talking about the top handcuffs, if we choose to include Algier in this, we'll say Blake Corum, Ray Davis, Algier, Vidal, and then would you put Roshan or Garendo at 5?
I think there's one more guy that should be in the conversation, which is Zach Charbonnet. I know you hate him.
Oh,
I don't love him myself.
I think you're right, though. I think if
He
you're
absolutely
right,
has to be on
that's
the
a great
conversation.
point. That's another. And he's like Algier. He's widely rostered, so he doesn't
Correct.
come to mind when I'm mining for these options on the waiver wire. It doesn't come to mind. But you're right. If we're ignoring availability, Charbonnet would slot in. What, right after Corum?
Yeah, probably. And you asked Roshan versus Garendo, and I think I would lean Garendo just because he has a bit more upside. I don't think Roshan is super explosive. He's just a good player, good consistent player.
But he is the bet. If anything happens to Swift, I mean, it is going to be the Roshan Johnson show.
No doubt. Khalil Herbert, healthy scratch last week.
Right. I think I go Roshan over Garendo. But it's close. What about Trey Benson? You have those guys ahead of Trey Benson?
Yeah. I just don't think we've seen enough out of Trey Benson. I don't totally believe that he's ready. and they like DeMercado as well.
Right.
They also have other guys on the roster.
Okay, so I think we have the big six locked in of Corum, Charbonnet, Algier, Davis, Vidal, Roshan, Garendo. I think it's the big seven.
Yeah.
And the elephant in the room is probably 8 or 9, which is Braylon Allen.
Yep.
Don't love the Jets' offense, which is why he's not higher. So what happened with Breece Hall last week? That was a shock. That was a shock to the system for all of us.
It beats me. This has just been incredibly frustrating from a projection standpoint. I mean, Breece Hall finally just gets a dominant workload for 2 weeks right after the coaching change. We think Breece Hall, RB1 rest of season, lock it in, and then they immediately go back to Braylon Allen. And now at this point, Breece Hall is more of a back-end RB1 at best in terms of projection standpoint. And Braylon Allen is right where he's been most of the year, around RB 32, 36 range.
So we talked about the low total that the Cardinals are facing at home because of the Bears' defense.
Yeah.
And then we have this fireworks display in the sky, shootout brewing in Buffalo.
Yep.
Dolphins face the Bills. Is there any case, if I have, let's say, Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jaylen Waddle, is there any case to play Waddle over Harrison?
I think that's pretty tough to sell. I don't think I like your thought process, though. I do.
Because my thing is Waddle is like, he is an elite player. He's an elite talent. Waddle was a top 10 pick in the draft.
Yeah.
He is Terry McLaurin.
Mm-hmm.
This is the shootout we've wanted. There could be real comeback mode fireworks, as I mentioned.
Yeah, I will say Waddle seems like a great DFS play this week.
Right. But if you're making a start-sit decision, you're still going Harrison.
Yeah, I will be projecting Mar for more points for sure, just because of the consistent usage that he's been getting.
I really hope it's Harrison. Oh, my God. I don't know. I want it to be Waddle. I wanted to create a dichotomy that was the craziest dichotomy that we could actually talk about in a realistic way for flipping what would be a consensus start-sit on its head. That's the limit. That's the absolute limit.
Oh, that was a really good one.
Right? Jacoby Myers over Marvin Harrison Jr., no?
Who does the Raiders have this week?
The Raiders are at the Bengals.
Ooh. I think Myers definitely over Waddle and probably over Marv, to be honest.
There it is. There it is. We got it. We did it. I knew it. I knew we would get one that we would just... Yes. I knew we could get... The crazy thing is, Waddle is right there with Marvin Harrison Jr., just in terms of raw talent. No one would confuse them with Jacoby Myers. But Jacoby Myers, because he is in that number one wide receiver chair and because they are going to Cincinnati and because it is Gardner Minshew, it's the reverse. It's like the least talented receiver is above the middle receiver and the most talented receiver is at the bottom, even though the most talented receiver is in the game with the highest total. What a brain fuck that is. I feel like someone just fucked my brain.
3 games this season without Devontae Adams, Jacoby Myers has a 30% target share and a 37% air yard share. You're not getting that with Waddle.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. And the reason why I trust you here, and one of the many reasons, but if I had to just pick one, on this starter stream show that I do every Sunday, we always get people in the chat complaining about where we have Zay flanked. Okay. I can set my watch by it. If I were a betting man, I would say, okay, the one complaint I know we're going to get is Zay Flowers. And then what does Zay Flowers do last week? I mean, he
Smash.
shows why he's such a great process play.
Mm-hmm.
So can you dig into this? What are the underpinnings of this Zay Flowers ranking and projection? That think we're pushing him above the conventional wisdom week after week after week.
Yeah, I think of him very similarly to Jayden Reed, who are also consistently above consensus with. Both of these guys are low ADOT, extremely explosive, used deep as well. And for Zay Flowers, I think it's pretty simple that he's just the best pass catcher on that team. And they're going to get him the ball, especially in these good game scripts. If there's a game where we expect the Ravens to just blow out the opponent, then you won't find Zay Flowers in our top 20 probably.
But I think that's what happened, is that people were slow to adjust their assumptions around the Browns offense. You were quick to just radically shift the expectations for the Browns offense because of Jameis Winston, and then the cascading effect is, that boosts Zay Flowers. So every week It's something else. Is there some other reason why? It's not always the same reason, but last week, that's why. And what does he do? 12 targets, 117 yards. Bingo.
Yeah, he's going to be volatile. But you should probably just start him every week.
Yes. Thank you. Yes. He's a great player.
Yes.
I really have a hard time getting off great players. I really do. I want to, and I have a hard time getting on bad players. That's why I've just been, I've been hearing arguments for Jerry Jeudy for 8 years. And it's just white noise to me. I can't do it. I can't do it. I also think that Tank Dell is a talented player, but Tank Dell is not right, man. So what do we do this week? We have to play him. You're starting him.
Yeah, you have to. Just hope for the best. Last week he did get there with the touchdown, despite not a great game. You have to start him and just pray. I really think that the whole community underestimated the impact of a broken leg and a gunshot wound in the same, 6-month period. We probably should have thought about that a bit more.
Yeah, we should have.
Yeah.
We should have been a little more thoughtful about that. It's true.
Yeah.
And the tightrope surgery. The tightrope surgery, that is going to be, of course, we're a year late on this, but that's going to be one of those heuristics where if you hear tightrope, we're like, red flag.
Yeah. I'm no longer going to draft a player that has a broken leg. I'm getting that tattooed.
What about Rashee Rice next year?
It's tough because it was multi-ligament, I believe. He had the MCL as well. That's never a great sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he'll probably have a little bit of a suspension as well. I guess what we're hoping for is a good end of the year. We're probably not gonna get a full season, but if we could at least get a good last 6 games, that would be a big win.
I think we're gonna get close out of the season. Tank Dell's a great ad and a great trade target because Stephon Diggs could miss the year. Has that news been released yet that Stephon Diggs is out for the year?
I don't think we've heard anything, which is super weird. Yeah, I haven't seen anything today. Oh, we did just get a big trade that happened, though.
What happened?
Oh, my God. There's everything going on. Okay, we got Diggs, season-ending injury. First of all, Stephon Diggs does have a season-ending torn ACL.
Okay, that was the fear.
Second
that means
of all,
Tank Dell is going to be a factor for the rest of the season, and he's probably going to just be getting more and more confident in that leg as the season goes along. Now's the time to get him.
Absolutely. It's scary, but you have to lean into it.
And John Mechie is an interesting option moving forward as well.
Yeah. I think he's somewhat interesting. It's a murky situation with Hutchinson and Robert Woods. I think all those guys are going to split snaps, unfortunately.
Robert Woods, man. He's not going to go away. The cockroach Robert Woods.
But Mechie has more upside than those guys.
Yeah, I like Mechie.
Yeah.
What's the big trade that happened? What big trade went down?
We'll get to it. Second news item.
Oh, there's another one?
Richardson benched for Flacco, which I think
Does that change everything you said earlier?
It just makes me doubt the whole Colts organization, because what are you doing? The guy's played like 8-9 career games, and you're just going to bench him just so you can make the playoffs and lose in the wild card round? It's beyond stupid.
Wow, you're good at this. I think you have a future in podcasting after that. That was a great take. I love that. Anytime you can just shred an NFL team, people you don't know, will never meet, that have all these different conflicting decision points and conflicts of interest, and just destroy their entire process, decision-making process. I love it. I love what I'm hearing, man. I love what I'm hearing. Yes, it's shameful what they're doing, but it's great for Josh Downs.
Absolutely. That is
my God.
Exactly what I was
we can't
say.
bury the lead. Incredible. Wow, Josh Downs.
It's impossible to rank him too high.
Okay, what else?
The Panthers are sending Deontay Johnson and a 6th-round pick to the Baltimore Ravens for a 5th-round pick.
I don't like that.
Don't like it for Zay Flowers at all.
This is terrible. Why would they do that?
Well, because they're a competing team that wants good football players in their team. I mean, I think it's a great move for the Ravens.
Yeah, this is how teams think. I forget these.
It sucks for fantasy.
Yeah, they're thinking we want to upgrade Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah,
that's how they're thinking about it. But for us as fantasy gamers, we're like, okay, now we can't play Zay Flowers. Thanks a lot. We just had a conversation.
Yeah, it's
10 minutes ago about why we're so consistently right about Zay Flowers, and then you fuck us.
Yeah. I think this is really bad for Deontay as well. Both of them are going to struggle.
Oh, this is so bad. Oh, my God. This is mildly fine for Lamar. It's a slight upgrade, I guess.
I mean, he was already the QB1.
It's not like Zay Flowers wasn't putting people on skates on every play anyway. It's a completely redundant skill set.
Yep, exactly.
Oh.
I would expect Zay Flowers gets used deep a lot more, but a much lower target share, obviously.
If you're Devontae Adams, I know you are friends with Aaron Rodgers, but wouldn't you have preferred to go to Baltimore? Wouldn't that have been
the perfect spot?
Would have been a much better spot. Then you're upgrading Bateman.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bateman can move into a third receiver role, and that's fine, and everything's fine. That's perfect. It's
a skill set that makes sense.
Yes. This is puke. Do I have a puke sound effect? I think I must have do I have a vomit, puke, something? I don't. Maybe in the podcast I can find it. I'm sure in the podcast we can do one. Okay, I can go dig one up. I have a whole archive of sound effects. That's so bad. Oh my God. Let's stay focused. Let's cheer up. Time to cheer up. What else?
I mean, what else do you want?
I thought you said. Well, no. There was one more we were going to talk about. I've already lost it.
We talked about Diggs. We talked about Richardson, and we talked about Deontay. Those are the big ones.
Oh, that's the big trade.
Yeah.
Oh, the big trade was Deontay, right? Okay, so we should put maybe one more. That's just to annoy the live audience right there. I guess that's a wrap. I guess we could shut this down. I mean, how can we even do a show now? I mean, we can't. You know,
I guess
we're going to talk about what defense to stream. I mean, what's left to say? I mean, this is at the 2-hour mark. We get this news, all this news coming in, and we've done a great job live reacting to the news.
I want to hear your take on Richardson, particularly in Dynasty.
See, the Bills did not bench Josh Allen in his second year. They wrote it out. Let's look at the standings. We got to look at this. I got to see where the Colts are in the standings exactly to really get a sense for what's going on here. Okay, so Indianapolis is 4-4. Coach is coaching for his job. Flacco definitely gives him a better chance to win.
No question.
Yeah, this is what's happening. The Broncos have been surging. The Chargers are 4-3. This is a desperation move. This is a desperation move to make the playoffs. They're trying to win a couple games in a row and try to get in position to make the playoffs. They're not even competing with that many teams. Cincinnati could certainly turn it on. They have like a break-even point differential. Same with Indianapolis, a break-even point differential. The point differential for Denver is plus 53. My God, man.
That's what playing the Panthers does.
I think Anthony Richardson's a buy here.
Oh, no question about it. He's a buy.
I think he's a strong buy. I would not factor this into my evaluation of Anthony Richardson much. This is a straight up.
I mean, it matters some.
This is a straight up coach survival play. It's also true. I don't think that the top equity holder there in Indianapolis is very strong anymore. I think he's near the end.
Yeah.
And sometimes that also plays a part in that he wants to win now. Right, that's my theory as to, part of the reason why Michael Penix is not playing in Atlanta and why they brought in Kirk Cousins, but did why they're going to give Kirk Cousins, multiple opportunities to turn the season around if he were to continue to struggle. He didn't. Kirk Cousins, turned it around very quickly. What do you have? 2 or 3 bad games to start the year.
Yeah, like 2 bad games.
It was 2 bad games. Just
500 yards a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, he was underperforming for 2 games to start the year. Got more confident in the Achilles, and then he hasn't looked back since. But I believe that they would have stuck with him for a number of weeks. He could have struggled for another 2 or 3 games, and they would not have turned to Penix because Arthur Blank is near the end. These guys get into the late 70s and 80s. They're like, why am I playing for 2027? What do I care about? I care only about 2024 right now. I need a championship right now. So I think we have the age of the owner. We have the situation of the front office and the coach. That it's even Ballard, the whole organization is pushing to get into the playoffs and do something.
Yeah, it's clear that this is coming from Irsay to some degree. Either he told them to start Richardson or start Flacco, or he said, if you guys don't make the playoffs, Ballard and Steichen are gone.
This is what I'm saying. I think the pressure is just on everyone.
Yeah.
Including, again, the owner is under age pressure. So it all just it flows downhill from there. And that's just reason to not factor in the team decision as much as you would some other situation where Arizona benches Josh Rosen, right? When they're no chance of making the playoffs, and he's only been, 3 or 4 weeks in, and they're like, wait a second, they're already benching him? Like, yeah, he's that bad. Yeah, if you didn't know he was that bad, the decision that the team is making here further illustrates just how bad he is. I don't think this is much of an illustration or an impugning of Anthony Richardson as it is the organization. And for that reason, then it's a buy. That it's necessarily a buy, a strong buy. I'm fascinated to see what you end up projecting him to do over the next 3 years, and therefore where he ends up slotting in Dynasty. This is going to be one of the trickier Dynasty slots of any player all year. What to do with Anthony Richardson right now at this moment in Dynasty.
Yeah. Regardless, we will stay ahead of consensus. You can bet on that. But yeah, it's going to be very tricky. Also, if anybody is just wants to tell us that he's horrible, just watch the tape. I'm not a film guy, but sometimes you just have to watch the tape, and it'll tell you what you need to know.
No, man, people in the chat are saying buy low.
Good.
Yeah, I think it's mostly I'm seeing a lot of buy low in the chat and the comments. I think that's the you want to bet on talent in Dynasty. That's the thing. You have these guys for their career. Stranger things have happened. Much stranger things. Jared Goff is an MVP candidate now. And he was the first overall pick and was a complete washout in Los Angeles. And they stuck with him, and he was playing much worse than Anthony Richardson's been playing.
Mm-hmm.
Think about all these players that have come back.
Darnold, Baker, Geno.
From the dead. Look at Baker Mayfield. I mean, he was just dropped on the side of the road with a fraction of the raw ability of Anthony Richardson. Right? But also then on the other end of the spectrum, then you have Justin Fields. Where he's potentially going down I still believe in his range of outcomes as a mobile first quarterback, he's still more Josh Allen than Justin Fields. So for that reason, I think we stay the course with Anthony Richardson.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, he does definitely have some Justin Fields to him, though.
It's a danger. It's not a lock by any means, but it's definitely not over yet. It's so far from over with Anthony Richardson. So far from over. Okay,
absolutely.
I'll get you out of here. Bold prediction for the rest of the year.
Well, it's the one rookie we didn't talk about this episode. Xavier Legette will have a 25% target share and be a top 30 receiver rest of season.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all of this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.